And good morning, everybody. Denise Guru here with you. And look who is back. We got Sharon Daphna back today. How about that? We've been talking back and forth a little bit on emails, just kind of checking in with each other once in a while. And she's had some free time and decided to come back and talk to us. And if you don't know Sharon Daphna, I like to call her, she is a person that is in service to others. And I like to call her the Orgonite fairy because her and Gabe, her husband, they like to go around and just gift Orgonite all over. And they live in California. And poor California, we know what they've been up against. And I'm up in the mountains of Colorado, and we get a lot of chemtrails. And so, Sharon she's like waged a war on chemtrails and anything that has to do with that, suppressing us and who we truly are and suppressing us from becoming who we are. And she's one of those girls that goes down in the trenches and does all the dirty work. So, but welcome, Sharon. So happy to have
Thank you.
Yeah. And so what has been going on with you? I mean, in talking to you, said a lot of changes have been happening.
Yeah, it's been a really turbulent time, and we have been doing a lot of Orgonite gifting. And it is interesting that you called it war, because it is a war, but it's an etheric war. And etheric warfare is a bloodless revolution. And that's what's so good about it, is that we can actually fight the dark forces without bloodshed. People think it's going to be World War III. They're picturing this military scenario, and it really isn't that way. It's all happening on a subtle level. And we're able to very easily turn that energy. I say easily because Orgonite is so powerful. Orgone energy is so strong. But actually, it is a lot of work to go out there and gift the towers and face the dark side, because they do hit back and it's inevitable. So it's been a lot of turbulent times since October. And we actually started to turn that in January. In January, I was having health issues in December that were very related to the same issues the Earth was having here in California. It was dry. We had a very slow start to winter. They were hitting really hard to suppress rainfall. And when I say they, I'm talking about the parasites, the ones that call themselves the rulers, but they're actually just parasites, and they're very lowly. But they were doing everything they could to put out the death energy that suppresses rain. And so my health issues and the Earth's health issues both seemed very similar. And in January, Gabriel and I decided to go out and gift. So we started amassing enough tower busters to do it. And in doing so, I knew what would happen, and it did happen. My health issues improved at the same time the rains returned. So we did a ton of healing work, especially in the fire damaged areas. Ventura County and Santa Rosa were our two target areas to heal the damage from those fires. And those fires were set with energy weapons. So that was a huge job. We gridded Ventura, Oxnard, and Camarillo, the three main towns. I would say almost every single tower. I took the map and we went street by street by street, and we did not skip anything. Gridding up and gridding down and back and forth. And so after we did that, they got 5 inches of rain, and that's when the mudslides happened. And of course, the media is always going to play up the problems with rain. First, it's a terrible word, a drought. And then when it rains, we're like, be very afraid it's raining. So we did that, and it made a difference. We went up to the Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland, Berkeley, not everywhere, but we kept track of what we did, and we're going to go back for more. Santa Rosa, very complete gridding. So rains are back.
That's good. That's good. And, we've been here in Colorado, we deal with droughts and it seems like 2013, we were in the drought, and then all of a sudden we got all that rain, and it all came at once, and we had all that flooding. And, that it's just more than what Gaia is doing. That this is being controlled, and, we deal with the fires.
Well, the rain, those crazy rains you're talking about, that's actually the Earth rebalancing. So that's her taking it back again. And that's the way she does it. So when people say they're making the rain, no, they made the drought.
Right.
The earth is trying to rebalance that. And every time we gift Orgonite, that's what happens. It happened in Las Vegas back in July. And there was a lot of fear out there on the internet saying they're making crazy rains. Well, no, actually, they made a drought. They turned Las Vegas into a wasteland over eons. Those rains and that flooding was the earth rebalancing, and she can do it violently sometimes because she's been so abused. So it's like when you're sick, you know, and then you take the medicine and all of a sudden you start purging and you think that's the sickness, but it's not. That's the purging.
Well, boy, she really has some major rainstorms when she lets her rip.
Oh, and that's what she does. She's got to heal.
Yeah.
And we've got to be ready for that too.
Right. Well, and I think, you know, energetically, that's how we can help. I mean, so many people have turned away from her. So many people still don't believe that she's a living entity.
Oh, entities aren't living.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
She's a woman. She's a living woman.
That's right.
A very big, round living woman. And, and yes, round. Flat Earth is a psyop to bring us back to the 2D. Mm-hmm. They want to take us down. I have more on that. I have proof. I have irrefutable proof.
Yeah. I never fell for that one at all. You know?
No.
Yeah. Well, you know, and it's kind of interesting. We were talking earlier, and I just lost my train of thought, and you had made a statement, and it reminded me of Dragon Horse, the book that you just read that I wrote. And, you know, there was a lot of turbulence in that book and that story too.
Oh, absolutely. I really enjoyed it. It was just like the story of what's going on here today. Yeah.
And, you know, actually I finished that story in 2012. So I was kind of using 2012 as, you know, what we were working up to. But it just coincides with what we're going through right now. It's the same repeating cycle. It seems like we get to this point, and then it seems like nothing happens. And
it's a push and pull. You see, we have our life force energy, our orgone, and your book did a really good job describing orgone and DOR, which Wilhelm Reich called deadly orgone radiation, a term that's confusing because it's not actually orgone, it's actually the opposite of orgone. And your book talked about that many, many times. The healing that was done with orgone, life force energy, and the land being full of life, or the land being dreary and dull in the death energy. And so we're dealing with that dualistic world right now because we're in the 3D. So yeah, it does seem like we get so far. And this is how it was with the rain too. What the earth is doing is what we're doing. So we had increase of rain, tons and tons of rain as we were healing her. And all of a sudden, at the end of 2017, the parasites hit back with their death energy and the rains stopped. And everybody said, the Orgonite's not working. And I said, oh, I know it's working. They're just hitting extra hard. So we feel like a setback, but we're still putting out that energy. We just need to increase it. So yeah, it's going to always be like we get so far, then we fall again. But then when we get up, we're stronger than before. And that's why they're going to be getting 100 inches of snow in the Sierras this week.
Oh my goodness.
It's all related. You know, the human condition, the condition of the earth, it's one and it can't be separated.
Well, look what Texas went through last summer. And then Florida. It's like bam, bam.
Mm-hmm. The hurricanes are an imbalance. Hurricanes, earthquakes, all natural disasters are caused by energetic imbalances in the earth. Again, the hurricane is the earth trying to purge the death energy, which has been suppressing rain. So you'll often see this lifeless, smoggy looking sky, dry land, everything's dry because of all that deadly radiation. And then when that's neutralized, the earth rebalances. But, you know, as that deadly energy is decreased and the life force is increased, if she does it too quick, it can be disastrous to us. But to her, it's healing. Mm-hmm. And we just need to start working with her.
That's right. That's right. That's right. You know, okay, so orgone is what we call God conscious energy.
Yes.
Prana.
That's it.
But Wilhelm Reich was able to, what would we say, harness it?
Yeah, you can collect it, you can amplify it. It's in the atmosphere naturally. And yes, he was able to harness it through the orgone accumulator. So when you put the alternating layers of organic and inorganic material, it attracts the orgone energy in and directs it in. So you can direct it into the accumulator so you can infuse your body with orgone. He was using that in cancer treatment and it was working. And the FDA did not like that at all. They actually banned the use of the word orgone. They said it doesn't exist, you can't use it. So he had a lot of trouble with the FDA, and he also was able to move orgone streams in the atmosphere with his cloudbuster, so he could help with stagnant air conditions. Air pollution, that includes smog and chemtrails, is totally energetic. None of that stuff would ever linger in a healthy atmosphere. The earth would just repel it. The earth doesn't want that pollution. So what he would do is, in a place that had the stagnant energy, the desert particularly, he would lift the pollution by doing this, by moving in the orgone streams, getting that air moving, getting those energetic streams moving. And that's how he created rain. And the orgonite, and I have a little one like you have with shungite in it, and quartz, they all have quartz. And the orgonite is a way of generating. When you put together these ingredients, the fine metal shavings and the crystals in the resin, you can also use a copper coil. You don't have to, because just putting these materials together amplifies their natural orgone energy. It's everywhere. So these act as generators, and that's why we put them near DOR sources like cell towers. What it does is it neutralizes that energy. And I did notice the characters in your book were working with orgone all the time. That's how they fought evil. That's how they cured illness. And I noticed that right away, that when the main character Cheyenne was healing the horse, there was an energy stream coming from her to the horse, and that energy would heal. It also calms, it soothes, it's nurturing. Yep, I appreciated that.
Well, and that reminds me, you were talking about the bloodless war, and when I came to the end of that book, it's like, I need a bloodless war. I need to have this great shift happen without all this blood and gore, because where we were at that point. And so the ending was, I was like, yes, I did it. I got this ending, and there's no blood and gore. And book two goes into prior to this. It's when Cheyenne lives a life on Lemuria and Agartha, and the battle that they had to go through against the dark forces. And then, so yes, always thinking about, because a blood war is the controllers. It's, it has nothing to do with feminine energy and
right.
Gaia energy. And so, yeah. And I hear
in your book, the women are really the rulers. In your book, it's really the female energy that is in control of the earth, because the earth is female, and it really is that energy that heals her. It's so out of balance. It's so out of whack.
It really
and
is.
Even men know that now. Men are realizing that every day.
Yeah. Well, we talk about the different cycles of control. Oh, when the beginning of Earth used to be matriarchal, and actually matriarchal is just another term for control by the women, and that's not how it was. It was a balance. In the beginning, it was the balance. The female and the masculine energies were one in harmony, and the men, they understood the women, their sexual power, and how life was born through them, and they revered and understood Gaia and all of her natural realms, something that we've lost touch with. And I think the new age movement has had a lot, besides Christianity, the masculine religions. I think the New Age movement is putting out a lot of false energy and a false
Yeah.
information. And so, they keep us confused, and they put some of this false teachings out. And, you think you're doing the right thing, come to find out that you're really not. And I know
Well, that's because you're following somebody else's ideas instead of just knowing what's right.
Yeah. So I know you kind of wanted to touch on that subject a little bit about a lot of what's going out. There's a lot of information going out right now about, this ascension process and this, and, so.
Yeah, people are in a dream world, really. They're not like facing reality right now. And regarding religion, first off, I do want to address that too. The Bible is a book of law. It's a book of God's law. It's not about religion. And I learned this from a guy on YouTube named Marcus. And I recommend his channel. It's called Servant King. And it's all about following the law of God. And that's something we just don't do in our world now. And God, people have a misconception that it's a guy in the sky, and it's not. God is referring to the natural energy, the cosmic orgone, the cosmic life force energy, and we're all connected to it. So God's not a he or a she. But anyway, the Bible is a book of law, and it's not a book of religion. And he brings this up that Christianity, it sort of took it in a religious direction. And Judaism too. I grew up Jewish. There are so many rules, and so out of touch with the actual natural law that's in the Bible, it's not about religion. It's just about faith and being connected to the earth and doing the right thing. It's all about doing the right thing. So anyway, I think religion has totally just made a mess of God's natural laws. And the New Age too, they're taking us in a different direction. So those of us who realize that being religious wasn't really getting us anywhere, because it's a very suppressing too. Religions suppress feminine energy. They suppress natural energy and puts us into a 3D box. The New Age, on the other hand, they're taking people who realize that there's more to it than what we see here, and they're taking them into really, it's like a big money trap. It's a big business. They're just like taking them in and saying, if you do this and that, we'll heal you. But of course it never happens. So you keep going back again and again and again to these lectures or getting sessions, Skype sessions. I'm sorry, but no one can heal anyone via Skype. That's not how it works. So I'm just finding that the New Age movement just takes people in this different direction and almost never, ever mentions orgone energy. You never hear it. A simple solution to everything.
Yeah.
Get back in touch with your life force energy and turn off those deadly devices that are suppressing it. The New Age barely touches this. Anyway, I could go on and on about the New Age movement.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron Day called it the New Cage movement, and I am in agreement with that.
Yeah.
Takes you into a new box. They heard you over here, spend a lot of money on this conference, and we'll heal you, and then you go back home and nothing changes. So you go back again next year, spend a lot of money.
Well, it's basically reinventing the wheel. It's taking, okay, so they're trying to, they're figuring out Christianity and all the other religions. They're figuring that out. Okay, so where are they at now? Oh, all right, we're going to give them this now because this is where they think they need to be. And when I listened to Cameron Day, that one, I was floored, because a lot of us thought we were doing what we were supposed to be doing, and come to find out that they got us again. It's
it's really tough. You have to be very discerning. There's tons of people out there with websites that claim to be experts on everything, and then if you know one of those subjects well, you quickly see they're not an expert. And it's good. That's actually good to study and specialize in something, which is, for me, orgone energy.
Yeah.
And I can actually say, I know how this works. I've learned how this works. But there are people out there that claim to be an expert on everything. And then when you just get down to it, they're just, really just conning people into paying them money for services and sessions. And I have to call it out. I have to call it like I sees it. I was at Conscious Life Expo, and there were tons of psychics there. And what do all of these New Age healers have in common? Smartphone addiction. They're all addicted to smartphones. They do healing via smartphones. You can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
See, they've given us a device that we've taken on and we've become addicted to, and no one listens to me on this, but it's an addiction, and it's designed to suppress consciousness. It's like if you want to be an athlete, and you think that you can smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day and drink a 6-pack of beer every night and still become a great athlete. You might be able to actually still achieve some stuff, but you're never going to get all the way. You're going to hit a ceiling. And if people are working with energies, they're working with their own life force energy, healing energies, meditation, any of these activities, or healing work for others too. If they are holding on to and being addicted to DOR, because DOR is an addiction, we just don't realize it, but people are addicted to it. And the cell phone companies use the same tactics as the tobacco companies used, but it's acceptable now. So they've become addicted. How can you reach a certain level of consciousness when you have a device which the energy of manipulates your own body's frequencies to remain in the 3D? If anybody can achieve higher levels of consciousness while using a cell phone, that's commendable. However, you're going to hit the ceiling eventually, and you're going to keep coming back around and around in the 3D as long as you're addicted to that device. People have to grow up.
They do. And, you hear so much, and it's discernment and also going within. But the problem is when you go within, if you're going in within and you have your cell phone sitting next to you while you're meditating, I mean, you really have to think about the information that's coming through. And I think about that all the time, because the videos that I do, I always say, please watch with discernment, because it might not be for you, so.
Yeah. I would also say, please don't watch it on an iPhone, because you're not going to be able to understand the information. Those things are warping your mind.
Yeah.
It's not just the body it affects. I feel like I can't stress it enough. Nobody's going to get anywhere. And that's why, unfortunately, the event is not going to happen with the current state of humanity. Yeah. It's not going to be a lot of people that go.
Right.
It can happen on a small scale. It can happen with, those very few people who are able. I mean, I don't even think that I can go yet. And I'm not saying that I'm so great because I gave up a cell phone. I still have a lot of growing to do.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of us think that we're not ready to go, because I think a lot of us came here to help. And, until it's, there's more people ready, I think a lot of us still want to stay in this fight, and.
Yep, it's true. It's partially out of wanting to help, and it's also just not being ready yet. It's like we have to graduate, and there are many trials that we have to go through, like the characters in your book too. And I don't know if I said her name correctly. I said Cheyenne. It's Cheyenne.
Cheyenne.
See that's
it's a like weird one. It's a weird one.
No, it's not weird, because my name is Sharon.
Oh, okay.
So I was named in Hebrew, and in English it's Sharon.
Oh, okay.
So the pronunciation's like the same.
Yeah. Well, her name originally was Samaya, which means
in Lemuria, when she was in Lemuria.
Yeah, and Samaya, and I didn't realize this, but Samaya means she knows. So what she had to go through in that book, in that lifetime, to get to, it ends with Dragon Horse. And it's another one of those things where, I wrote it and I was having just as much fun writing it, because I didn't know what was going to happen next. And what is she going to do? What is coming next? So, but it all, it was as I was downloading all this information, then I would write it. And then I'd download all this other information, then I would write it. Book 3 is really interesting. It's kind of like what we're going through after the shift. But a lot more.
I'd be very interested to see.
Yeah. And a lot of the orgone stuff still going on. And, actually her healing that horse in that story is true. I mean, that's what I did. You know, the horses in the story were my horses, and
Yeah.
I took Reiki, and that's how he had cancer and was given 8 months to live. And well, we had him for 7 years. We got rid of his cancer, and his death is the same way in the story. It devastated me, but I knew why. I just knew why. So, but he fought me for 7 years, but you know, so, but that gets us into, I sent you, you're so busy, and I didn't know if you had a chance to read this, but somebody sent me a website, and it had to do with this event stuff that's coming, and the people that are talking about going on the different spaceships. And, you know, I heard about this, back in 2006, I think, you know, and it's like, whatever you do, don't go on a spaceship. No matter.
They're not taking us on spaceships. Right. We are so low consciousness compared to them. They would not even, I did read it over. I didn't look at the video yet because I didn't have a chance, but I did read it over. I am sorry to burst their bubbles, but these guys are not coming to take us on spaceships. They're harvesting us currently.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they're talking about some future event where they're going to start harvesting us. No, they've been doing it for eons. Yeah. They harvest us etherically. They don't show themselves. The bad guys do not show themselves to us. And I was a little taken aback because she said something bad about the Nordic aliens on the site. And we don't know them. I wouldn't assume they were bad. The picture of the alien and the spaceship associated with it actually looked like the Venusians. And from what I've read from George Adamski, which I really think it's sincere. You know, I know it's just what he says, but I really do think he's sincere. He met them and they were benevolent. So I don't want to just like start being afraid of getting on spaceships and meeting them. They're not going to meet us that way. It's so different for them. They're on such a different level.
Yeah.
Even the bad guys are on a different level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But anyway, I did look it over.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going on spaceships? I mean, if you do, I'd love to go on one. They said not to, but.
You know, and I heard this. It was funny because before 2012 happened, I happened to read a book that I believe it was a North Korean guy wrote, and it was called the Gaia Project. And it was all about what we were supposed to go through in 2012. And I see the same thing happening. I just pretty much wanted to just sit there and wait for it and not do anything. And that's what I keep telling people. No. We got to keep going. We got to keep moving. We got to keep doing what we're doing here. You know, we can't just sit and wait for somebody to save us. You know, then energies, if source, goddess, God, whoever you want to call us, is sending the energies, then, you know, we still have to live while we're here. And so he had talked in this book about the Native Americans and how the Native Americans were saying, absolutely no, do not get on any ships. And, you know, the Lakota tribe think that they came from the Pleiades. So I found that very interesting. And I know a lot of other people through the years have come across the same information. And I never once thought that I was going to have to go on a ship, even if it was just to heal myself, because the energies coming in were too strong for me to handle. Go on the ship, heal, and then come back down. That just never resonated with me at all. You know,
yeah, it's not physical because you think on a different level because you understand the etheric energy. Mm-hmm. They don't work that way. And I think we may very well meet them, but it's going to be on such a different, it's going to be an experience like you can't even understand right now. That's what I think.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not worried about the spaceships, although I see them all the time and I take pictures of them.
Yeah. Well, and don't you think though, it has a lot to do with, Because everything is energy and everything is vibration. Orgone is a vibration, a frequency,
Right.
where we're all at individually. How
Yeah.
this will affect us. It's all in an individual process.
Yeah, everybody is a little different. I don't think that there's just distinct levels of vibration. I think there's everything in between.
Yeah.
That's how it seems. That's how it seems. I really don't know. I mean, none of us really do know
Right.
because we're here. If
Yes.
we knew, we wouldn't be here.
Yes.
I think occasionally they pop into our dimension. I've had experiences with those I call the watchers. They pop into our dimension. They look like people. They say the most unusual thing to you in the most bizarre circumstances. And then as soon as they're there, they're gone. They say just what you need to hear at the moment to keep going. Yeah. So I think they do pop in. But according to George Adamski's account of meeting a Venusian, they can't really be here for very long. I don't like being here. It's just so dense. The vibration here is so dense. There's pain and everything moves slowly and it's hard to accomplish anything. I could understand why a higher dimensional being couldn't stand to be here too long.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just think we have to find something that keeps us in a higher vibrational moment. I don't know, what is there when you feel low? What is it that you do that helps you just keep you here, keep you fighting the fight? Is there something that you do?
Well, the most important thing that I do to keep afloat is to have my homes filled with Orgonite. I have Orgonite everywhere. So that's just the daily maintenance. But here's one people probably wouldn't expect. You need to comfort yourself. If you're feeling really, really low and you just need a break, you have to give yourself that break, and you have to eat comfort food, and you have to watch some TV and relax. I know that sounds really surprising coming from me, because people would think I'd say, get on a detox regimen. But no, you need to nurture yourself, within reason. And the other thing that has helped me immensely recently is to exercise more. It all sounds very simple, but you got to get out there. Sometimes when you're feeling really just down and out, just moving around and getting out there helps, especially if you have a nice hiking trail or something where you're in nature, if you can do that. But even walking around the city, get out there and move your muscles, because one of the things that really leads to depression is laying around and wallowing. So while I say on the one hand, you need to comfort yourself, you might need to do that first, but the next day, get up and go for a brisk walk. I've gone back to jogging. I slacked off while I wasn't feeling well, and I really started to feel worse and worse. And so I had a bad backache. I had a lot of energetic attacks. It's certain parts of my body just got hit hard. But as I started to recover, I said, well, I better not lay around too much. I got to start moving and going jogging and getting back into being with the horses. I finally got a riding lesson again. That helped. So be active. I really recommend it. A lot of people think that all you have to do is detox. But no, really, that's not even as important as moving around. Your body will detox when you exercise. It will just do it on its own. Your life force energy takes care of that. And you can kind of amplify that energy with movement.
Yeah. Well, I was happy to hear that you got back into the horses, and we call them land dolphins. The energy of the horse has been surpassed for so long, even though they have been the backbone of the rise of our world. And it's really interesting because Heart Math Institute did a study with horse heart energy. And they brought a bunch of people in and matched them up with a horse. And they did a couple of just easy, like meditative type things. And they had these people where they just sat and projected just gratitude towards the horse that they were matched up with. And the horse's heart rate variable, which is the space between each beat, was able to change the heart rate variable of the person that they were matched up with. And so the horse's heart energy is so huge and so healing, and they're finding out this more and more and more. And we're just seeing so many. See, this is my thing. So I get all excited about this.
Yeah.
But so that's a good sign that we are waking up. We are starting to realize,
We are waking up. And that's the reason that I stress ridding your life of the poisons they provide. The parasites want to keep us from waking up. It's pretty obvious to most of us now. Oh, I wanted to add another point. If you're feeling down or negative in any way, if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling just blah, whatever negative feeling, first things first, turn off your cell phone, wrap it in foil, and unplug the Wi-Fi. I don't even have those things in my house, but if you have them, try that first and foremost. That really does a lot to help. So I just wanted to add that. They do want to keep us from waking up, and it's very easy to do so. Most people I know who are into these kinds of ideas are also smartphone addicts. It is an addiction. It is an addiction, and it prevents consciousness expansion. And they've set it up really brilliantly to get people even as children. They're getting them young now, because it's not acceptable for kids to smoke cigarettes.
Right.
That addiction is not acceptable anymore. People don't like it. But it's totally acceptable for children to have EMF addiction, DOR addiction. And it's perfectly acceptable to do it in public around people who don't want to be exposed to it, unlike smoking, So I can't stress that enough. But yes, definitely all the other stuff I said too makes you feel better. And horses are extremely healing. Animals are wonderful companions.
They are. They really are. And like you said, just getting out into nature, and taking your tennis shoes off with your rubber bottoms and walking on the earth and doing that polarity change, the positive and negative energy changes. She loves that,
Yeah, that's the grounding. You can get all that positive ionization that was caused by the EMF. You get it out of your body back into the earth.
Yes. It's really interesting because I was just listening to a news program. I don't remember what it was, and they were talking about Facebook, how their stocks have gone down 24%. And I find that
that's good.
Yeah. And I, you don't believe everything that comes on mainstream media. So I was like, right away, and then they were talking about the kids who are starting to take, like college students starting to take their spring break vacations and leaving their cell phones at home. It's like,
I don't believe that. Frankly, it sounds made up. No, but that's great. If they are, it's great. But it sounds unlikely.
Yeah, mainstream media, how much of it do you believe when they say that? I don't know. But could be more of that. Give them the information that they're seeking. I don't know. But, kind of goes with our UFO and the entertainment industry now that's on Facebook, and our certain celebrities that everybody is just put up on a soapbox. And I just think we need to start discerning these people a little bit more.
Mainstream media is actually it's really interesting to look at mainstream media. I just see it through Yahoo because I have a Yahoo Mail. Now I see the headlines. I don't watch TV, but I see the headlines, and I find mainstream media hilarious. Actually, it's such a joke. I actually laugh out loud at a lot of the articles now. But the thing of it is if it's in the mainstream, they want you to know it. So whatever it is, if it's in the mainstream, they want you to know it. And this is what I was mentioning earlier when I said I have irrefutable proof that flat Earth is a psyop. The reason is because Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about flat Earth on the mainstream media. And even if he's just saying he doesn't think the Earth is flat, he says it's round. Oh, actually, he says it's pear-shaped, but in actuality, he's pear-shaped. But I digress. The Earth if he keeps saying the Earth is round, it's not flat. Why is he bringing it up? Why is he dignifying it? Because he wants people having a useless debate over the shape of the Earth. Or the media wants it. He's just worked for them. He's just a tool of the media. But If they mention it, they want you to know it. If they are talking about flat earth and rappers are talking about flat earth now and athletes are talking about it, they want us in that debate. They want to lower our consciousness. They not only want to keep us in the 3D, they want to bring us down to the 2D. Flat earth is 2D. It's flat. That's two-dimensional. And the earth isn't flat and it's not round, actually. It is so much more than any of that than we can even perceive. It's more than a ball.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, that they're hoping that so many people, they keep them so busy and so sick that they don't have time to figure it out for themselves. And if they see it on mainstream media, and they don't want to look stupid, so they want to follow along with that. And you know, we hear
whatever's on mainstream, they want us to know it. The parasites say, this is what I want you guys talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
So who knows what they want really? All we know is we need to increase our life force energy, get back in touch with the earth, and stop believing their BS.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what do you think about our alternative media and some of our stars that we're putting out there?
Not much. I don't think much of the alternative media at all. Most of it is just the same thing. The controlled opposition was put in place from the beginning. They knew that not everybody was going to be duped by the mainstream media. So the independent media, it's all linked together. It's not separate at all. The most obvious, of course, this one I can say by name. I don't really call people out, but Alex Jones is one that we can talk about because it was just realized a long time ago that he was a shill. He works for them, you know, but there are many more on lower levels, and it gets lower and lower. Believe me, there are people on YouTube with YouTube channels that are made to look kind of, you know, alternative, but they're completely funded by the mainstream media. And even the big independent networks they're all funded by the same people. So no, I don't think much of the independent media, because another big clue that it's the same thing is all the fear. They just generate fear constantly. And if you don't generate fear, you don't get called back for another interview. I haven't had an interview on anything too public in a while. You know what I mean? Like, this is a public interview, but I haven't been like broadcast on the really well-known channels in some time because, well, I have good news. You know, that's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I've got to plug in my computer. I just realized that my battery's going to run. It's going to take me 1 second.
Okay.
Go down under the desk.
No, that's fine. You know, and that's the thing. When we kind of look at people who, it seems like it's like these famous stars, these starlets, you know, it's one day they're nobody, and then the next day it's like, holy cow, they're on everybody's channel and overnight. And, you know, Zach and I talked about this a lot. It's like some of these people are being helped because they are, even though we think they're giving us the right information, they are being helped by the other side. So
it's so obvious to me. It's like, it's ridiculously obvious. I think the big clue people can look for, if it's something like, I can kind of see into their third eye, you know, I can see what they're about. But the biggest clue you can look for to start to know that they're trying to lead you in the wrong direction is fear. If what they tell you is scary and there's no solution, that's an issue right there. Yeah. And don't think they don't know the solutions. They do know. I had an interview with George Nuri on Gaia, and that was, I did it almost 3 years ago. And so people who watch Gaia and people who work at Gaia, they do know about orgone energy because I did talk about it. Mm-hmm. So if anybody who works for that network, for example, says there's no solution to chemtrails, they know there is one because I was on that network talking about the solution to chemtrails. So just be really careful. That's all I have to say. Just be really careful. People get paid a lot of money to say what the media wants them to say, and that includes the independent media. It's big, big business.
Yeah, it is. You know, and it worries me when there's a lot of channels that all they're trying to do is get a lot of the real top name people on their channels, and You know,
Yeah.
I think about it all the time. What are their motives there? And there's a lot of really good people out there that are not known, that are really, trying to give out some good information. But like
Hmm.
you said, it all just comes down to discernment.
Yeah, and YouTube is a good tool for putting out information like this. And I also want to let people know that Vimeo is way less censored than YouTube. So if you're having issues with YouTube censoring, now we talked about on another episode that people can check out, we talked about the legal name registration. That was something that was very useful to Gabriel and myself in preventing censorship with YouTube. While everybody else is getting censored, videos are getting taken down, channels are getting shut down. This is a real problem for people like us on YouTube that say stuff that maybe they don't want to hear. But for us, because we had this legal name registration, we were actually able to invoke the law and prevent a video from getting taken down, which they threatened to take down.
Yeah.
And they didn't like the topic because it was about the transgender issue. And transgender is a real touchy subject these days, because we're not prejudiced against people who change their sex. Although I think it's completely pointless and unnatural, because you are what you are and God made you. And that's the way you are. That's the way you came into this earth. And that's your mission. But if people want to change, I'm not saying I'm against it. What I was saying was this news story on 2020 was a hoax. It was about a rape of a high school girl. And the high school girl was a boy in drag. And I could tell in a second. And so I think that YouTube thought that was really sensitive information. Yeah. And I said, the reason I put this up, of course, was to say, you have to really watch these people carefully. They're giving you fake stories. Everyone in that story was an actor. It was all fake. And anyway, we were able to not get it censored, but YouTube is big on censorship. So there's another tool, which is Vimeo. And when I first joined YouTube, I got censored immediately. So I quit and went to Vimeo.
Yeah.
That's why the Kembo is on Vimeo.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
but back then I didn't know about the legal world. I didn't know how to prevent the censorship. So I said, oh, well, I got no choice. But anyway, there are options. There's always a way to get this out. We got to host our own content too. We can't rely on Google, which is what YouTube is. So we have to be very creative. We have to be innovative. And we all have to be trailblazers if we want to get information out.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it just all goes back to going within yourself but the only thing is people are having such a hard time reaching their inner self or their higher self because there's so much interference and they don't.
There's a lot of interference.
Yes.
It's the cell phones primarily.
Yeah.
It is primarily the smartphones. That is the biggest poison that everyone has in their lives. And I know people who detox till the cows come home, and they never feel good because they have smartphone addiction. Yeah. So, there's really, the whole detox thing is so overplayed too. Drop the GMOs out of your diet, eat organic, your body will cleanse itself. Exercise, it'll cleanse itself. Mm-hmm. And although, you might need some supplements here and there, just live clean, live healthy, and get rid of the poison. GMO is obvious. Get rid of that.
Yeah.
Pesticides, try to eat organic food. That's obvious.
Yeah.
Smartphone, not so obvious. People don't know. And water, that's also another thing people don't really, aren't so careful about the water they drink. But we don't want to be drinking anything but pure water. So you need reverse osmosis or distilled water to get that crap out of there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just a few suggestions. But smartphones, get rid of it. Wrap it in foil. Keep it for when you're out and about if you have an emergency.
Yeah.
If you get a flat tire, it's good to have it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, some people sleep with their phones.
I used to. I didn't know. I slept with it next to my head.
Oh.
Yeah. I didn't know. And I wondered why I had nightmares. I wondered why I couldn't sleep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then, I made the change.
Yeah.
We have to be strong. We have to be strong. I didn't have a smartphone. I had a dumb phone. Still kept me from sleeping. Still gave me nightmares.
Yeah.
And the Wi-Fi gave me nightmares. That was right there too. Just beaming me all night while I slept.
Yeah.
You learn through experience.
Well, it's funny because I have one of those dumb phones, and a lot of the people that, I interact with, it's almost like it's an inconvenience for them because they can't text me. And it's like, I don't text. I don't ever need to text. I said, if you need to talk to me, call me. And it's like they bypass me because I'm an inconvenience now.
I am so glad you said that. I was feeling really alone the other day for that very reason.
Yep.
And, you know, it is a tough place to be in, to be the only one that doesn't buy into that. But it's so unhealthy. I mean, can't people remember what it was like back before we could text each other? And email is even too much of a hardship for people these days.
Yeah.
You know, put a little thought into these relationships. Right. Do you really not want to ever talk to your friend ever? I had a friend tell me that I was impossible to reach because I got rid of my cell phone. And I said, but I work from home and I have a home phone number and I answer it when it rings. And it just like, it completely confused her. She didn't know what was going on. I'm like, calling. It's called talking.
You're right.
Do you know how to dial?
Right.
What kind of a friend doesn't want to talk to a friend?
I know. Well, I don't know. They're few and far between these days. I'm just too strange for them.
Well, it's called evolution. And, you know, and this is exactly what I was talking about. This is really important. This is why I said the event's not going to happen. It's just not. I don't believe it for a second. All those people who think it's going to happen are smartphone addicts. If they can't call you, they're not going to higher dimensions. It's not happening.
Yeah. I don't know. Unless
delusional.
Unless they come through and they get on the spaceship because they're programmed by their phone and then they get eaten.
They're not getting on any spaceships or getting eaten. They're being harvested currently.
Right.
See, the way it works, it's right now, and this is how it works. And I know this from bitter experience, okay? I had a lot of bad experiences with these devices. And over the years, I dropped them and things have changed for me and things are better. This is how they harvest you. They get you in a low state of consciousness and they put you into the fear realm. There's basically two emotions, love and fear.
Right.
That's all there is. And so they program you into fear because EMF is a very fast waveform and it changes the resonance of your body. Your body tries to conform with it. They're not compatible. And Dwayne Gardner, the author of The Science of Rain, described it like this. Your body's energy system is like the roots of a tree. And the EMF is like the shape of an onion. Your body's trying to conform to this shape that is not how it works. So the wavelength's totally different. And in doing so, of course, it causes all kinds of miscommunication of cells in the body. And that's what leads to the cancer. That's a miscommunication within the body. But on a mental level, on a spiritual level, it changes your thoughts. It changes your mind. Yeah. And so what the smartphone does is it programs you. You basically start working for it. It programs you to start doing what it wants. And what it wants is what the parasites want. So your consciousness is physically manipulated through the waveform to be low. And what they do then is they feed etherically and they feed on negative energy. And that's very, very easy for them to do. They did it for eons before the smartphone was invented. They've been sucking off the lifeblood of planet Earth for tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years. And they have various ways of doing it. They cut down the ancient silicon trees. And I know your book touched on the trees being a portal to a higher consciousness, because the fairy, the way that she came into the human realm was through the tree, the ancient tree. And when her gateway was closed, when they cut down and burnt down those trees, her gateway was closed. And that's exactly what they did here on Earth eons ago when they cut down the silicon trees, is they closed these gateways. Yeah. So that's how they did it. But now, they've already desertified, they've terraformed, they've turned this planet into a lot of it's desert. They've turned it into what they want, and they're continuing to desertify. They're also creating a desert in our hearts. And Wilhelm Reich discussed the emotional desert. And again, this is the human earth connection, is that we feel and experience the same things that earth experiences. So I guess I'm going off on a long tangent about it, but they do physically these days suppress our consciousness very, very easily with frequency. This is their biggest tool. GMO food, that's not even close to what frequency is doing. And metals in the water, that's that actually is worse even because it interacts with the frequency. But the main thing is you could still do all the toxic stuff you're doing. If you got rid of that smartphone, your consciousness would begin to expand and open. They're physically manipulating it in order to feed on negative energy. And they feed on the negative energy of the earth. That's why they cause natural disasters, fires, 9/11. If you think humans were behind that, think again. I'm reading Dr. Judy Wood's forensic analysis. Where did the towers go? And it's very clear when you read her book. It's the first account of what happened there that actually makes sense to me. It was a free energy weapon. And, they do these things. It was a free energy weapon that dustified the building. And she has mathematical equations and evidence. The thing is a textbook. And we know that there are energy weapons out there. And we have also taken into our own homes energy weapons that manipulate us every day. They need to do things like 9/11 from time to time because human consciousness is expanding, and they need to keep squashing it. Mm-hmm. Trauma. We're under trauma-based mind control. That's what's going on here. And there's a way out, but people are they're like children with a toy. They won't put it down.
Right. Well, they can't. They're psychopaths. They can't think differently.
Well, the parasites, they are programmed to destroy.
Yeah.
They're artificial intelligence. They're not like us. And the humans are complicit, and they are doing it to themselves by accepting in their own lives destructive energies. So they're going to do these cataclysmic events over and over again. I mean, fires, they're using these same energy weapons to set fires in California. Mm-hmm. But the way out is orgone energy. I keep saying it, there's one way out. Increase the life force. We can disable those energy weapons by continuing to gift Orgonite. I think we can even disable the energy weapons like the 9/11 weapon. I know that we have it within ourselves to do that. We need to grow up. Yeah. We need to strengthen ourselves.
Yeah. Well, we got to get out from in front of that TV first.
TV and cell phone.
Yeah.
Cell phone is the worst. Yeah. It's just.
No, you mentioned.
Humans are just really holding themselves back.
Yeah. Well, tell me about your earth pipes. You had mentioned something about your earth pipes.
Yeah, we're starting to make earth pipes. And in fact, let's see, I had them nearby now. I could grab one and show you, but they're in progress. Do you want me to grab one and show you what it's going to be? Okay, I'm going to go grab it. Be right back.
All right. Yeah, it's going to be our only way to combat this energetically, energy to energy.
All right, so I have a neighbor across the street that had a copper pipe lying around in his yard.
Okay.
And he knew that I talked to him about Orgonite a little bit because he works on a lathe, so he makes little shavings. So I went and just struck up a conversation with him, and he gave me some metal shavings, and I gave him a tower buster. And he had this copper pipe lying around in his yard, and he asked me if I wanted it, and so it's kind of tarnished. But Gabriel cut 1 foot lengths of this, and you just need a pipe cutter to do this. You don't even need power tools.
Okay.
And inside the earth pipe, and then we taped off one end. We're about to pour these any day now. It's a long time coming. You tape off one end, and you put a quartz crystal in it with a point facing up. Then you'll drop the metal shavings in there, or you can mix the metal shavings with your resin. But we're going to drop the metal shavings in there, and then mix our resin and pour in about that much. And so what it is it's Orgonite in a pipe. It's in a copper pipe. So usually we put a copper coil. Can you see the copper coil? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So usually we put a copper coil in our Orgonite because copper is good for repelling negative ions, which clean the air, and it helps the function of the Orgonite. And it gives it this electromomentum that DeWynne Gardner talked about in The Science of Rain. Anyway, the earth pipes are great. It's like acupuncture for the earth. So the crystal's pointing here, but when you put it in the earth, you put it face down. So you've got the hollow pipe here, and the Orgonite and crystal is going to be here. And what that does is it helps to neutralize the DOR within the earth and rebalance her energy centers. So what we do with the Organites, we throw them by the cell phone towers primarily, or places that just need the energy boost. And what these are great for is you can put these by fault lines. We're going to do, we put a couple along the San Andreas Fault that we got from George Ritchell from Organize Africa, which is a good source for affordable Orgonite products.
Uh-oh. They didn't like what she had to say. Let's see if she comes back. Hi guys, sorry we got dropped, and it was like an act of God to get us back. They did not want the information of the earth pipes to get out. So I think we were at where she got done describing how to put it together, and she was getting ready to put it in the ground.
That's right. And you know what? While we were dropped, I ran and grabbed a quartz crystal. So I have a chance to show a little more detail. So maybe that kind of backfired on them after all.
Oh, there you go.
So what you would do is, when I was describing how it gets put together, I'm going to drop the quartz in there. See, it's pointed. You got the duct tape here, and you got the quartz pointed up here. Just whoop, drop it in. Fill it with the metals and resin. And then what happens when you're putting it in the ground is the quartz crystal is actually going to be pointing down into the earth. So it's directing energy into the earth. And it's basically an Orgonite like the tower busters we make, but it puts the energy right into the earth. So it's great to put it on a mountaintop. We put one of these at the top of Mount Pinos near our house. And there was a cell tower array up there too. And we threw tons of Orgonite as well. Technically, you only need one tower buster per tower or even cluster of towers, but we wanted to do our due diligence on that one. So we put about, I don't know, maybe 6 tower busters, which is a lot, but it's good on mountaintops, and the earth pipe. And we think it's really important to do this in California because of the earthquakes. We haven't had many lately, but earthquakes tend to be man-made, well, I wouldn't say man-made events, but parasite-made events. So we think of earthquakes as a natural disaster, but I think of earthquakes as an imbalance of energy, and I think they can be set off. And I also think that by putting earth pipes into the ground near fault lines, we can neutralize them. So we haven't had a big earthquake in a while, knock on wood, but we're working on the San Andreas Fault and other fault lines. And, you know, you can really put an earth pipe anywhere that needs good energy. We lived in this house that had terrible energy, and it had horrible, disgusting sewer bugs, which are the giant cockroaches that would come into the house. I know it's gross. I see them as a signal of a parasite. Like whenever I've lived anywhere that has had a parasitic infection, there's been roaches. And I'm from LA, so that can happen a lot. But when we put the earth pipe in the ground at that house, the roaches disappeared and they didn't come back. So that was the kind of a signal to me that it was working.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the next big project.
Yeah. Now, can you make them bigger and fatter and wider? And
I think you can, although that's not really like the recipe that I've been given by, I got this from George Ritchell from Organize Africa, and he uses like something like a 1-inch pipe. And I think that's adequate, actually. Yeah. You can probably make them bigger, but I don't even think you need to. Orgonite is so powerful. Yeah. You don't need to make them too big for them to work well.
What about, now that's just regular metal. Can you do copper pipes?
Yeah, it is copper. It's very tarnished, because I mentioned my neighbor had it outside, and it's tarnished.
Okay.
But yeah, and we figured, why not experiment with this for our first earth pipes, because it doesn't need to look pretty. It's going in the ground. Yeah. And you hammer it in. But here's a really good tip I learned from my friend who gave me our first earth pipes, is he has a really big drill bit, and he drills into the earth first, so that it falls in easily. So it's way less effort. Because, you know, if you're standing there hammering it and there's people around, they're going to wonder,
what are
you doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, my friend also wore a hard hat and had a vest. So he looked like he was supposed to be there.
Major construction, you know.
Right.
Well, I'm going to have to do that, you know, because it's funny, because the earth-based person that I am, I have a big bottle of honey, and I have a bag of barley, because we bought a new lot up higher in the mountains, and they just got done excavating, and we had to cut some trees down, and it's really hard for us. My husband tries to save as many trees as he can. So yeah, barley and honey is another offering that I do.
Oh, okay.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm going to have to try all of that together. But
Yes,
yeah,
offerings are also good. They're good for our minds too. It's the
right.
showing of
It
generosity,
is.
um, and the earth understands it. And gratitude is everything. And that's
Yeah.
a new thing I learned recently, which is that when the sky looks bad and you see chemtrails, instead of getting angry, give your gratitude and love to the sky, because the sky just wants to heal too. And love is what gets rid of chemtrails. Orgone energy is love. So I started giving my thanks to the sky and the earth, and it's helped increase rainfall. I mean, I've seen the direct results. It
Yeah.
might not be easily provable by science, but I've seen direct results between that gratitude and increased precipitation.
Yeah. Well, and it is. And it's a way for some, you know, everybody's like, well, what can I do? I'm just one person. What can I do? Well, if each and every one of us did this, you know, instead of you being the organite fairy flying around, you know, you need some help.
I do actually. We recently just implored our listeners on our show to please just help even energetically, because in the months of the fall and early winter here in California, the etheric attacks were so heavy, and I was getting sick because I work too hard. And even healers can get sick if they overwork. This is what happened to Blue Thunder, Rainbow Thunderheart. He died it was in 2016, and he died from the stomach illness, like cancer, because he had put everything into healing the earth, and he didn't have time for himself. And it's
Yeah.
not selfish to need help, and it's not selfish to need to heal. And he had actually stopped the supervolcano in Yellowstone from erupting that they were so worried about back around 2004, and he did it all through ceremony,
Wow.
medicine wheels.
Wow.
And he also healed the drought in Big Bear. There's a video about this you can see online called Healing Mother Earth's Sacred Sites. And the work he did was phenomenal, but he ended up getting very ill because he wasn't taking care of himself. So I implored our listeners, please help us out. At least give your good energy to the Orgonite we put out there if you can't gift your own, because
Right.
we can't do everything ourselves. There's 50 million people in California. We need more than just a couple of people out there
Right.
doing it. And then a fellow blogger called Real Occult Media, she's on Tumblr. She's up in San Francisco, and she started doing the meditation. She started giving her energy to the Organites we had up there. And she says literally after we gifted, there's been 2 weeks of perfect blue skies constantly, and she'd never seen such perfect skies. And she offered her energy to help with that and her positivity, and that, you know, it really does help.
It does.
Just a good thought helps, you know,
Yeah.
if everybody just kind of, but you got to, I'm going to say it again. I probably said this like 20 times. You got to get rid of those cell phones. You know, I know that my fellow blogger friend has one, and I know that most people do, but don't really have stuff around that keeps you from being positive. If you start to feel negative, remove those negative influences so that you can have a positive mind and manifest a positive world.
Yeah. Yeah. And now your website, and it's all listed below. You can go to your website and learn how to make your own Orgonite. And
Yes.
I'm sure you'll have it there for the earth pipes. And I don't think these are really that hard. Yeah.
They're not that hard to make. No. You know, these are the ones, these little, well, we sell these on our shop,
Yeah.
but I also have a video on how to make them yourself. And you can save a lot of money that way, and you can make more of them. If you're handy and you enjoy crafts, I totally recommend it. And it's such a satisfying activity. It's so much fun. And then you get to see your results when the sky clears up. You get to watch the transmutation, which is a whole process in itself. You know, they call it stratus clouds. The weather overlords call them stratus clouds, but that's not what they are. They're transmutations, and I've got pictures of them on my website. And you'll see them forming over your house when you make your own Orgonite. And there's a Tower Buster video on there too, so you can learn to make Tower Busters just like ours. And the Earth Pipe, well, we haven't even made ours yet. We've had them made by others. So once we have success making them, then I'll be able to show others how to do it. But I just gave you the lowdown right now. I think you could just take what I told you and just go for it.
Yes, yes. Well, Ciara really appreciates the Tower Buster you sent for her. So
good.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I appreciate that to hear that from Ciara. I
Yes.
was thinking about the horses here in our community, and I've already got a guy in mind for a Tower Buster to bury in his corral. He's in the pasture, and I was wondering if I should tell his human or not about it, or just do it because he's got cancer. She's treating it herbally, which is good. She's treating it with herbology, but I'm going to give him a little of my own positive energy and try to help him out.
Well, that is really interesting that you brought that up, because before we ended, I wanted to, as soon as you read Dragon Horse, I wanted to show you some pictures of what Orgonite, Scalar, Prana energy, or God conscious energy can do. Now, Nero in the story was Lucky, the horse that I found down the road who was dying from cancer. And I gotta find my pictures. Here we go. When we found him, I was just like, there's no way in hell we're going to be able to help this guy. Okay, that was one of them on his leg. And the woman that owned him at the time, the vet had come out and cut one of them off. And because I went down and I said, is it okay if I work on your horse? And she's like, do it. I don't care. Whatever you need, tell me. And she said the vet cut one of them off and gave him 8 months to live, and it just came back. And so I and another girlfriend worked on him for a month. And every day I went over there and worked on him every single day for a month. And this was the same one. And then a month later, it's
wow,
gone. And the black, you could see the skin starting to come back.
Yep, it's healing.
And he had this one. This one was really hard. It was underneath his armpit.
Poor guy. Oh, that's such a sensitive area.
It is. And you can just see the stages of it.
Wow.
What the energy did. And it
wow.
But that's just two of the lesions, melanoma that he had. But we had him for 7 years, and
that's amazing.
Yeah. So tell your friend.
That's and that's the Reiki that you do. That is you're using life force energy to heal, and that's what the character in your book did. And what Orgonite does for us is it gives us an energy tool to help us with what we already have inside of us, because it's been suppressed. So it's like, I believe that in a world without any EMF at all, let's say there was no cell towers, no deadly energy, we wouldn't even need Orgonite, right. But we use it as a supplement to help us with our own energy. There will come a day where all of us just have that ability to heal just from our own hearts.
Yeah. So really, if you sat in, so many of us do meditations where we're sending out, a lot of us send out rainbow energy. I like to send out the rainbow energy, the rainbow love, and I just let it go out like the Tesla, alternated currents. It goes with the beat of my heart. So it's a different ring of energy with every beat of my heart, because if we just continuously send it, it doesn't seem to go as far. It's like DC current compared to AC current. Alternating current goes a little bit further. So if we did that with these, in our laps, like we were holding a crystal,
it amplifies it so much, because you actually are holding a crystal, but the crystal is mixed with other crystalline elements. Metals are also crystalline in structure, and you've got that resin which compresses on it, and that pressure releases more of that, increases that piezoelectric property. So all that energy in the crystal, which is life-giving energy, is just increased and amplified. And if you hold it and you have positive intentions, that's amplified. It's just, it works together, and it just keeps amplifying itself.
Yeah. So, well, I guess I've kept you long enough. So,
it's been really fun. And getting cut off is just part of the challenge. They didn't want us talking about earth pipes.
Right. It's like, can't let that get out. So anyway,
that'll prevent earthquakes.
Yeah. So if we want that event to happen, these are the things that we need to do,
Right.
some of the things that we need to do. So, but it was so good having you, and Sharon, come back anytime. And
Great, I would love to.
yeah, you can keep us updated. And then
I will, and you can also check out my website and blog to see what we've been up to.
yeah,
It's
and
thekembo.com and
listed
the
below.
Tumblr.
Below.
Great. And yeah, definitely check out the Tumblr blog because that's daily, almost daily posts. So you can really see how it's progressing.
Okay. And your Etsy store, all of the ones that you make are in Etsy, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that really interesting. I think I told you that when I was buying one, I couldn't decide between the two of them which I wanted. And so I bought the quartz, and then you gifted me the other two, and it was the other one that I wanted. And I opened that, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is so meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
So
I knew.
You knew. See, there's more to Sharon than she's letting us know. So anyways, but okay. Well, thanks so much, Sharon. And it's always a pleasure. And we will have you back and see what you're up to next. So
thank you so much. I so enjoyed talking with you and talking about Dragon Horse too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that too. So
I really enjoyed it.
All right. Well, I'll send you Samaya and see what you think of Samaya. I know you're
I
like,
look forward to it.
Yeah, you're like me. I like to read so many different things that sometimes fiction kind of gets at the bottom of the pile.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm a real bookworm, and I like to read it before bed because I don't want to have to think too hard before I go to sleep.
Right.
And so I like fiction because it takes me into another world before I go off into dreamland.
Yeah. Well, and I do take you to another world. So.
Yes, you do.
So, all right, Sharon. Well, thanks a lot, and we will be talking to you soon.